Welcome to Dreamed It, Then Real Lifed It, the podcast where we dive deep into the journey from vision to reality. I'm Kelly Jackson, your guide on this path of self-discovery, transformation, and intentional living. Here, we explore everything from mindset shifts and personal growth to spiritual alignment and entrepreneurship, sharing insights, stories, and actionable wisdom to help you live a life in harmony with your dreams. Every episode will dig into what it means to not only dream big, but to actually consciously create the life you envision. Let's turn your dreams into real life. Before we begin, let's land for a moment. You showed up today because part of you is turning toward truth, expansion, and alignment. Sunday Spark is my weekly email created for the ones who are ready to live life in full ownership, to build in rhythm and grow from a place of ease. Each letter includes insights, activation prompts, and practical tools woven through my holistic trifecta, which is optimal health, positive relationships, and wealth building. And the best part? It's only 45 to 90 seconds to read. It's a quick spark, a gentle activation, something you can carry into your week. If you want that kind of moment in your inbox every Sunday, you're invited. Sunday Spark is there. It's ready when you are. The link to join is in the show notes. All right. Welcome back. The first day of spring just passed a few days ago on the 20th. And I've been thinking about that a lot because the last couple of months of my life have felt pretty seasonal. And January and February in particular held a lot of internal movement for me. And the Pongo experience was definitely a big part of that. You know, that whole chapter brought up conversations about stewardship and responsibility and love and clarity. And I talked about those pieces in the last 3 episodes. Today feels like the moment where I can finally look at what happened after that. And, 6 weeks have passed since releasing him. Something interesting has unfolded in my life. The pace of my days shifted and the energy of my house shifted and my attention shifted. And, living with another being shapes the rhythm of your life in ways you don't fully notice while you're inside of it. Your awareness naturally orients toward that presence, and your schedule adapts around care, and your mind carries that responsibility throughout the day. And the day that responsibility left, a different kind of space appeared in my life, and attention came back, and ideas began showing up again in a way that felt familiar and really good. And conversations about the podcast started flowing differently. Creative thoughts and projects started popping up while I'm like driving or walking or making my tea in the morning. And life felt wider again, So spring started a few days ago, like I just said. And when I look outside, I see all the green coming up everywhere, and when I go outside, and that image keeps landing for me because growth becomes visible in the spring. But the roots grow long before that moment, and the seeds start working underground long before anybody sees the sprout. And my winter held a lot of that underground work too. And clarity around stewardship, clarity around responsibility, clarity around the type of energy I want to carry forward in my life. You know, the interesting thing about clarity is that it rarely stays contained to one area. And one honest decision tends to open the door for other honest observations, and priorities begin to line up more clearly, and energy starts organizing itself differently. You know, small ideas appear and curiosity returns. And spring feels like that moment when the internal work begins to show itself through action. Something new rarely begins from zero, guys. Something new usually is going to be emerging from a season that already prepared the ground. And that is what this moment feels like for me right now. A sense of emergence, and conversations are forming that feel aligned, and creative momentum feels easier for sure. And my attention feels less divided, and energy really has room to move again. And nature carries a rhythm that reflects this perfectly. You know? I know we've used this metaphor the last couple episodes talking about the Lunar New Year, but how the snake sheds its skin when growth makes the old layer too tight for it to inhabit anymore. And the horse represents movement, and shedding clears the way for running. And the last couple months have really felt like shedding, you know, and spring feels like the first stretch of movement after that. Like life has space to run again. You know, life feels like it has space to run again. And growth is going to show itself when the roots have done their work. And that idea brings me a lot of peace. You know, I think of another thing. They talked about cutting back and everything, or shedding. And this year, we did a really good job this year. My dad was right on it. So after the last freeze of the year, this year, sometimes we hold out because we're like, oh, there might be one more freeze. But we had the last freeze, and Dad kind of just really took action and felt like that was going to be the last one. And he went ahead and started cutting back all the grasses and plants, and just, we have a lot of landscaping on the property. And he started cutting everything back. And so we had been working in the yard and everything. And when I tell you, like he said, within a week, like some of the ferns and things we had cut back, or that he had cut back, these asparagus ferns in particular, within like a week, like he said, they're a foot long, the new green growth. And it's so much better for the plant, first off, when it's not trying to send energy and nutrients to dead or dying parts of the plant. So that's one reason you want to cut back what's dead or dying, you know. And the other thing is, so once, if you don't cut it back and then the new growth comes, and then it just, the plant itself, you got to go in and prune all that old plant material out of there. And it's a lot more time consuming to do that when you're trying to like go around all the new growth. So the fact that he cut everything down right after the last freeze, and then everything new's coming up as new growth. And I mean, it is really coming up now. Like, again, life feels like it has space to run again. Everything got cut down and all of the new stuff is fleshing out. And yeah, there's that period of time in between when, it goes from being these big, lush green plants or colored plants, whatever color they are, to everything getting cut down and it looks a little empty and bare. But now the new growth is coming and it's beautiful. And every season contributes something important. Roots matter just as much as blooms, and underground work supports everything that eventually rises above the surface. And that's why so we get out there, me, mom, dad, got all these covers for all of the plants, to protect them from the frost, from the weather, the elements. And again, so when it rains and freezes and stuff like that, like we say, if you have these covers, these like painter's tarp type things, painter's covers over the plants, but if they get wet and then freeze, it's still, the plants are going to get wet. But like mom says, it's protecting the roots. So even if, and it does help some with some of the plants, and depending on the weather, to cover them. And, it is a lot of work to go out there with 40 or however many of these big things we have to cover all the plants. But it works. And then the plants, even if we do have to trim back the foliage, the root system stays healthy. And when the soil warms up and the weather warms up and the sun comes out, then those roots are still in integrity and it can start producing new growth. And your own life might be holding a season like that right now. Attention is turning inward and clarity is forming quietly, and your energy is reorganizing, and all that growth is gathering beneath the surface. That's what it was for me. Like I've not been, y'all know I love my yoga studio where I go, and I usually have 2 classes I go to pretty much for the last couple years consistently every week, these 2 classes. And then I have other classes that I mix in. But even for the last 2 to 3 months for me, I've been returning to my home practice. And again, I built my home dojo. That's a big part of that too. And just some of the other gyms and studios that I was going to, I've stepped back for a little while, kind of this inward thing, attention turning inward and going more to my home practice with my Tai Chi and my calisthenics or my yoga practice or my weight training or whatever all I'm doing, all the different things, my roller skating, right? Been jump roping again, the things that I enjoy doing. And that doesn't mean that I'm not going to rejoin these communities and get back into these classes and these rooms, because I love all of them. But this was a season of turning inward. And again, the growth gathering beneath the surface, and spring eventually reveals what the winter prepared, right? And this season holds that feeling for me. It's like a season of emergence. And it feels really good. And then you may be feeling this too. So I'm excited to see what emerges. And I spent the last 3 episodes with that trilogy talking about Pongo because, guys, that was a big deal. And I know that it resonates beyond a dog. That's why it was important. Those lessons, those stories, just everything about that really applies to lots of different areas of our lives. And next week, I have a guest, a surprise guest, and I'm really excited about it. And it's totally new, it's just something emerging that came from this season of being inward, right? Kind of like the winter season. And so this is something new that's emerging this spring. And so I'm excited to share it with you. So today's episode, I'm keeping it short today. I really just wanted to present these little thoughts that I had. that the roots grow in winter and seeds germinate in darkness. We're getting some plants for the yard, and right now, this time of year, a couple weeks ago, I guess by the time you're listening to this, and we decided we really wanted sunflowers, and sunflowers aren't ready yet. We can get the seeds, but you got to basically plant them in little seed starter kits and put them in the greenhouse. And then once they're sprouting, we can go move them to the beds. And I don't know, that got me kind of excited. I'm excited to go through the process of taking these from seeds to 6-foot tall sunflowers, right? That's going to be fun. And guess what's going to happen? Trees, flowers, all of the things, the root systems are going to grow before the leaves do. Okay? Same for us. So the things happening underground are happening before what you're going to see above ground. Okay? Nature prepares before revealing, in other words. So the most important growth in nature is happening where nobody can see it. And I know you can relate that to your life. I can. The Pongo clarity season, the internal transformation, all the emotional processing, like this feels so aligned for me. And if it feels aligned for me, I know I'm not the only one. I'm sure it resonates for you on some level as well. And a lot of my winter this year happened internally. It really did. Like I said, it began the beginning of last year. The end of last year kind of began my inward cycle. I always kind of go more inward. My birthday is in December. And so usually I don't go to the studios and the gyms as much because I'm traveling or holiday celebrations, things like that, and birthday celebrations. And so I began my returning to my home practice usually in December. Plus it's winter and it is just a time of going inward. And this year with Pongo, that extended longer than usual, extended into January and February. And now here we are in March. And so this is where we are now. And there's been a lot of quiet work. There's been a lot of clarity forming, and there's been a lot of identity reorganizing, a lot of shifts in my identity and attention. And I love it. I'm here for it. And I want you to also hear this, though. So sometimes people tend to rush spring because of the hustle culture, and it pushes this constant blooming idea, and social media sometimes only wants to show the flowers. And people tend to skip the underground phase. So this is your reminder. Don't try to force the bloom before the roots are ready. Okay. Like Abraham Hicks has this thing that they say where you don't plant the seed and then go stomp on the ground wondering why you don't see the plant with the fruit all in the same day. You realize that there's a process. You realize that this is going to take a little time to germinate, to grow roots, to come about. You don't reap the same day that you sow. And that's all I want you to hear. So I want to leave you with this. Some signs that you're entering your spring. If you feel calmer about decisions, if you have clarity that is replacing confusion and your energy begins returning, maybe some creative ideas are resurfacing and movement feels natural, not forced, like you want to move, I know I've been wanting to move and definitely been everything I just said, creative energy surging through my body and all of these ideas. And guys, you're entering your spring. Like it's time. It's time. It's, you're emerging? What if you just allow yourself to emerge from the work you've already done, and you don't have to try to reinvent yourself every season, and you allow yourself to emerge? And if your life still feels quiet or slow or underground right now, that does not mean nothing is happening, okay? Maybe your roots are still growing. That's okay. Because here's the fun thing about spring. Sometimes the most unexpected things begin to emerge in spring. You don't even know what's coming. We are only 3 days into spring, okay? So get ready. We have a really awesome episode next week. I cannot wait for you to meet this guest. And guys, one thing I'll say, flowers are not the beginning of growth. When you look around and you see flowers, because this time of year, you're going to see flowers. Flowers are not the beginning of growth. They are evidence of growth that started long before anybody noticed. Okay? I love y'all. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye. Thank you for tuning in to Dreamed It, Then Real Lifed It. I hope today's episode sparked something powerful within you. Remember, every step you take towards your vision counts, no matter how small. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please take a second to hit that subscribe button or leave a review. That would be amazing. Or share the podcast with someone who's ready to bring their dreams into reality too. And if you're looking to dive deeper, connect with me on social media at Dreamed It, Then Real Lifed It, or at BE_what you want. Or visit dreameditthenreallifedit.us for more resources on aligning your life, business, and dreams. Until next time, keep dreaming and keep manifesting your dreams into real life. Love you, friends.